tells of a young man applying for a job at an old factory that has just been reopened. The factory has a history of mass fires that killed dozens of workers. Every night, the sounds of footsteps and screams are heard from the machine corridor. One by one, the new employees disappear without a trace. The young man slowly realizes that he is being prepared to be the next sacrifice. The last night becomes the peak of the nightmare when the spirits of the victims appear and demand new blood. Let's hear the full story. At the end of a long-abandoned industrial area, stands the Kerrang Seton factory. The building towers darkly, with dull concrete walls full of cracks like unhealed wounds. Even though it has not been operating for almost 30 years, someone decides to reopen the factory, employing dozens of new workers who don't ask many questions. They were simply tempted by the high wages on offer, too much for the simple job of assembling metal parts. The young man was named Sudha. He was 25, a migrant from a small town who had never known enough money. The first day he set foot on the factory floor, he felt the freezing air creeping through the cracks in the tiles. The smell of rust mixed with soot still hung in the air, as if the great fire that had once destroyed dozens of workers had never really been extinguished. Those who worked there did not talk much. The chief supervisor, a thin man with a dull look in his eyes, only gave brief instructions. The large machines were ready to operate, although some had not been replaced since the colonial era. Steam pipes hissed loudly, spewing out mist that left a metallic taste on his tongue. Sudha tried to ignore the uneasy feeling growing in the pit of his stomach. The first night of guard duty, Sudha was tasked with ensuring that the production line remained lit. The room was quiet, the neon lights flickering like the last breath of a candle. Between the creaking of metal, his ears caught the sound of footsteps pounding in the back hallway. The steps were too heavy for one person, like a procession of worn-out feet walking aimlessly. He forced himself to peek behind the door, but the hallway only showed a thin mist, flowing like the smoke of unfinished grief. Every night the sound came again. Sometimes accompanied by soft sobs, sometimes long screams that bounced off the cement walls. Sudha began to lose sleep. His sleepiness was chased by nightmares that were always the same. Dozens of charred bodies, their faces black and blistered, standing crowded in the production room. Their white eyes stared at him without blinking. On the seventh day, a worker named Rudy did not come home. Everyone pretended not to know, as if losing a soul was a routine that had to be accepted. The supervisor only recorded it in the logbook. No one looked for him. Sudha felt his heart dip in ice. He asked an old woman in the packing section, but the woman only turned away, lowered her head and muttered, "The sacrifice must be fulfilled." Sudha wanted to leave, but his contract was already binding. He did not dare to break it. He held himself back, working with a heartbeat that continued to jump every night. On the 9th night, the electricity went out for a few minutes. In the darkness, he heard heavy breathing hissing from the corner of the room. When the lights came back on, he found black footprints stuck to the floor. The footprints left wet marks like melted flesh. As time went on, he felt the old machines whispering. Often, the voices sounded like pleading calls. "Come along, come along." The whispers seeped into his ears, making his head throb painfully. The 12th night, he woke up in the production room without knowing how he got there. The neon lights swayed slowly, as if being swung by an invisible hand. The smell of burning flesh suffocated his nose. Beneath his feet, the originally gray floor was soaked with red liquid that dripped slowly from between the machines. On the 15th day, 2 more workers were missing. No one reported it. No one asked. At that moment, Sudha knew that something in this place was hungry. And the factory was still standing only because of blood sacrifices that had to be continuously paid, so that the building would not collapse on everyone inside. He remembered an old story he had heard from his father. It was said that this factory was once built on a mass grave. When the fire broke out, dozens of workers were locked inside. Their bodies were never fully recovered, and their spirits were trapped, forever demanding replacements. The 18th night was the night when Sudha could no longer distinguish between dreams and reality. He was checking the electrical panel when all the lights went out at once. In the darkness, he heard heavy footsteps approaching. This time it wasn't just a voice. Something touched his shoulder, His skin was as cold as a tombstone. He closed his eyes, but the fingers gripped tighter. When the lights came on for a moment, he saw a burned face pressed against his cheek. A charred tongue stuck out, licking his ear with a popping sound. After that, Suda fell ill. His body shivered, his skin pale green. He didn't want to work, but the supervisor came to get him. In his sunken eyes, Suda caught something older than mere exhaustion, a kind of long-held horror. Without a word, the supervisor pushed him back into the production room. This time the door was locked from the outside. He sat on the cold floor, staring at the rusty machines. The machines began to hum by themselves. The gears moved slowly without electricity, as if powered by invisible hands. Black smoke billowed, forming faces clenched in eternal screams. Suddenly, the floor beneath him cracked, revealing a dark cavity. From within the hole, dozens of charred hands reached out, grabbing his legs, pulling him down layer by layer. Suda screamed, but his voice was drowned out by the hum of the machines. He struggled, clawing at the floor, leaving a trail of blood on the tiles. But the harder he tried to climb, the tighter the grip of the hands. Black, smoky faces protruded around the hole, their eyes wide and blank. A hoarse voice broke through the noisy whispers, "Sacrifice, sacrifice, sacrifice." The floor cracked wider. Suda's body sank to his chest. From inside the hole, small sparks emerged, red flames dancing on the tips of the spirit's fingers. The fire licked his skin, turning his flesh black. The smell of burning flesh filled the entire production room again. The machines screamed like animals being slaughtered. When his body was completely submerged, the machine stopped. The hum died down. The floor closed tightly as if it had never cracked. The room became silent, leaving only a fishy smell that refused to go away. A few hours later, the supervisor opened the door. There was no one there. Only black ashes remained in the middle of the floor. The next morning, the list of workers was updated. One name was crossed out. A new work contract was prepared to replace Suda. In the administration office, the chief supervisor recorded the number of sacrifices. His hands shook, his empty eyes stared at the increasingly short list of names. He realized that no matter how many people came, the Kerang Seton factory would always be hungry, and no one could stop it. Outside the building, a thin mist rolled slowly, caressing the dark, cracked walls. From the gaps in the steam pipes, the sound of sobs echoed, the voices of workers who were never allowed to truly die.